What is up? I'm Miguel Antonio, and you are listening to the Live and Create podcast. It's where I interview artists and entrepreneurs about what it means to live a great life and create great things. And before we jump into the podcast today, I'd love for you to check out my band, Run With It. Here's a clip from our song, Move On.
So grab your jackets, grab your coats. The sound of our feet now crushing the snow. This bitch of a night gonna give way to the sun. We'll find a trail and we'll build a new home. Whoa. There's nothing to see here. Whoa. There's nothing to see here. Whoa. There's nothing to see here. Whoa. So why don't we just move on?
If you like what you heard, make sure you check us out at Run With It Band, at Run With It Band, everywhere you follow people at, or go to runwithitband.net. It'll take you to all the different links you want to go to, and there'll be a little button you can click for booking information. Now for today's podcast. So I know we had a plan and we were going to do the individual ones beforehand, and then that, life be lifing, and here we are. So we will get into the individual stuff later. I'm glad we got that rescheduled for summer, but I am excited to dive into the collaboration that you guys have been doing. Before we do that though, I'm curious. In my last guest, it was TC was on the podcast like 2 nights ago, and
Very cool.
he was joking how, I think it was TC or is Dan, one of them was joking about how this should be I should just start calling this the Sync Alliance podcast at this point, because I'm starting to have more and more
Yeah.
people. But I'm curious, how did you guys get connected with Sync Alliance, and how long you've been part of that, and then how that led to the collaboration is what I'm curious. And feel free to jump in and chime in as you guys go.
Absolutely. I'll go ahead. I joined the Sync Alliance, man. It's been a couple of years now. And it was back when it was still being ran on Discord primarily, is like where we had the community there.
I've heard a few of the playback videos and I actually, in the playback videos, I was hearing the transition to school, but I'm part of the new crew. So
It's
you're
all
OG.
good. Yeah, OG, but it's still, it's getting bigger. It's getting better. And, Paimon, when did you join?
I joined, let's see. I joined a little bit after the first,
I guess better question. How
like over a year.
quickly after you joined did we start to collab? Was it probably about 6 months or so?
Yeah. It was probably like 6 months or so, I would say.
Okay.
We tried to collab once, and then like the track didn't go work out.
It was like a Bruno Mars type of track.
It was
I'm like,
it was a brief that you got.
yeah.
Hadn't
But
really.
it seemed more complicated than what I was ready for. You know what I mean? Because when it comes to like Bruno Mars tracks, he stacks a ton of vocals. He's got singing
Right.
vocals, rap vocals, stuff all over the place.
All the little ad libs, all the crazy stuff going.
Yes. And the way that Paimon produces is like he's very intricate in his process. So I knew, I was like, I'm going to have to take a lot more time than what this brief is going to allot for.
And were you under a time crunch for that one as well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. As most briefs are, you know what I mean? But then
Right.
later on down the line, as we continued to do feedback sessions and hear each other's music, I think I messaged him and I was like, yo, we got to give this another shot. I'm feeling your stuff so much, but let's try to do one on a clean slate. And then out came Butterfly.
Yeah. And to her defense, it was my first stab at a brief,
Gotcha.
because I was fairly new to the community, the Sync Alliance community. I had taken like Josh's courses with the Sync Alliance, and like learned a lot about like sync and stuff like that, but I had never like applied the knowledge as far as briefs go.
Right.
So I took a stab when I saw Chakra had posted, I got an opportunity for a brief. It's a Bruno Mars reference. And I was like, I love Bruno Mars. Like, because
Let's do
I
this.
gravitate towards like funk and, like jazz, blues type, like, R&B styles and soulful music. So, Uptown Funk has got that like, modern twist on funk and soul. And I was like, ooh, I would love to take a stab at that, but it was one, under a time crunch. So I was like, kind of like trying to rush the process. And two, like she said, I was trying to maybe do too much for what that particular brief wanted, or maybe just what at the time Chakra was ready for. And,
Gotcha.
you know, it just didn't work out. But yeah.
Well, it is
But then
wild
it
how you
did.
get into it. The stacks can start to become overwhelming, you know, and like even right now I'm working with some vocal stacks and I'm just like, oh my God, because I'm very new to producing and there's like some days I'm like, I swear I want to cry like at some point because I'm like, where was this one? What is it doing? Why? Oh my God.
Yeah.
And
The
figuring
amount
out
of
how to
times,
spread it. It's wild.
the
Yeah.
amount of times I wanted to pull my hair out from when I was learning to produce. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd never genuinely wanted to punch a wall until I started learning to produce.
Yeah, it's like there's days I'm like exhilarated. I actually tried to remaster something. That's what I was doing. That's why I was running behind because I worked on remastering the song. I didn't like how it was mastered, and then I did the listen back and compared to my previous one. I was like, yep, it's shit. It's pretty much
No.
shit compared to my last one. And I'm just like, fuck. I was like so excited, and then I'm like, you know. But yeah, it's wild. I was just listening to 21 Pilots, their newest album, and listening to the way that they do his vocal stacks are just, I'm like, wow, I've never really recognized until learning production how much is going on just in the vocals, where he has like the splits on like 2 words and then it comes back in and on like 1 word and then it spread, you know, the where he's got a panned in the choruses. I'm like, this is wild. Yeah. And then you do all the production. Now, when you guys are collaborating, when you were working on this project, Chakra, was it you doing more vocals, Paimon, you doing production, or a little of both? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, no,
Paimon took the wheel on production. Go
yeah,
ahead, Paimon.
yeah. I only produce, really. I mean, I do vocals when I'm like doing music for myself. Like, I'll take a stab at, you know, being the artist side as well, but I'm much more confident in my production abilities than my vocal capabilities. So I tend to, especially when it's like a collaboration, I'm like, if I notice that they're a good vocalist, I'm like, you handle the vocals and
There you go.
I'll handle my strengths. So, yeah. So as far as like, you know, the writing of the backing music, that's something I love doing. So all the different layers of instrumentation and music production, that's where I tend to stick to. And then also the, you know, arrangement after receiving the vocals, and, you know, the post production of like adding little ear candy, if you will, or extra layers on top of that.
Yeah.
I love doing that aspect of it as well. Mixing, I hate it, but it is what it is. That's an aspect that, you know, you kind of have
Necessary
to
evil.
learn. Yeah, you kind of have to learn, but it is something that I've been improving over time. And
Yeah.
thankfully, Chakra sends me vocals that are very easy to mix because they're already good quality recordings. And, you know, her vocal
Nice.
arrangements are also pretty much drag and drop. So I don't really have to do much on that aspect. So her production of her own vocals makes it a much smoother and easier process when it comes to producing the record.
That's awesome. So you
Appreciate that, Paimon.
both are owning your parts in the collaboration.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool when it comes to collaboration as well, that your guys' story in collaboration started with like a misfire in a way, but you knew you wanted to keep going. And so to me, it's inspiring because I collaborate with my band currently, but I'm already talking to a few people in the community about some collaborations as well, where I'm doing vocals because my strong suit's more vocals than production as well. Although I actually love mixing now too, even though sometimes it makes me want to punch my computer. But I know there's some of you guys who are just wild at production and mixing. When I'm listening, I'm like, okay, yeah, I bow to what you're going to do. I'll just sing. But it's cool and inspiring to know, like, even if it doesn't quite work out the first time, like if you know there's like synergy there, keep pushing forward and keep going at it.
I think
With this particular project. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was probably going to answer the question that you're about to ask.
Well, I know you guys started with a brief, but with this project, is this like a long-term brief you guys are working towards? Like is there a library that's been wanting this kind of style, or this is just something that's coming from your guys' like vision at this point?
I think the reason that our collaboration worked out so well is because like we just happened to be on the same wavelength at the right time. What I've found with collaboration is like you can collaborate with a bunch of people and they might have certain intentions or goals when it comes to like whatever sound they might be inspired be at the time, and then you might be inspired or want to go in a different direction at the time. So sometimes if you try to collaborate with the maybe even the right person at the wrong time or wrong person at the right time, whatever it might be, you guys might be trying to make a square peg fit in a round hole. You know, like it's like you might be forcing a sound that isn't really authentic to you, or you might be trying to force them to put, you know, to fit in a sound. And it just so happened that me and Chakra kind of were inspired by the same music at the same time or same styles.
That's cool.
And so we just gravitated towards those directions that we wanted to go. And so like naturally, like I said, like the music that I personally listen to and the music that I enjoy making is, you know, in the R&B, soul, funk, hip hop, you know, direction. And she, I think, heard a lot of the music that I was producing at the time that I was like,
And I think it had me think of a reference for us, like, because at that time, the song Back on 74 by Jungle was just blowing up in my own world. And so I was like, yo, just from hearing the stuff that he had previously done, I was like, here's this one track that kind of reminds me of the stuff that you do. And that, I think, was what laid the groundwork for that first song that we succeeded at, which was Butterfly.
Yeah, because she sent me like she said, she sent me a reference, and immediately for some reason the drums to Butterflies just snapped into my head. And it honestly, it didn't even sound like the drums of the reference. It was, I think, just similar pacing or tempo. But immediately, because I was already in the mindset of making soul music and like soul vintage soul revival, like her vocals, she does have that like the Southern drawl and the like, you know, she is able to hit those emotions. Immediately, I just thought Motown. And so the Motown drums came to my mind immediately. So like I just whipped up those drums, hit a similar chord progression to the reference that she sent in a key, in the same key, and just sent that to her as like a skeleton. And that's how it started.
Nice. And then you started shaping as far as like verse choruses, Chakra, or like, yeah, I guess what did that back and forth? And real to give me perspective too, Chakra, you're in Texas. Paimon, where are you at?
I'm in Iowa.
In Iowa. Okay. So you guys are doing this like long distance.
Yep.
And just sending stems like Dropbox to each other or disco. Okay. Very cool. And so, yeah, what did that next step then? Like, okay, you guys figure out we have this synergy, we have this focus. What did that look like as far as bouncing back and forth through these ideas?
So I used to be a performer and I would write differently for performing. And I've noticed that as a recording artist, working and collaborating with lots of different people, lots of different genres, all long distance, that I start coming up with melodies first. And then for the top line to see where it sits, to give it the emphasis wherever it needs, emotionally, energetically, whatever. And then I come up with lyrics to kind of match and go with the melodies. So
as a performer, did it start more with lyrics then for you, like the idea and concept, and then
melodies? It would start with my ukulele, because that's what I was performing with, was the ukulele, and then like a band or sometimes solo or sometimes a whole loop pedal situation, which we'll have to go into on the next time I'm on. But I would always start with the chord progression, and then I would go into like lyrics after that. But yeah, this process was different. And from every project after this, and maybe a couple before, just coming up with the melodies and then tapping into lyrical content. And that's pretty much what we did. And a lot of the times when I work with producers, I'll just do like the chorus or a verse and a chorus, send it back, and then I kind of get their go ahead. I'm like, is this within our vision?
To make sure.
Yeah. And then we'll continue from there. And, you know, sometimes he'll send back something like an updated instrumental, kind of added some things here and there based off of maybe the last feedback session that we had in the Sync Alliance community. And then, you know, and then we'll kind of top it off after I send him back the final vocal. He mixes it in and builds a little bit more around it and adds that ear candy, like he was saying. So
nice.
Yeah.
How
Really
long
fun.
did from you initially sending that reference track to him to being finished? How long did that take for you guys?
Butter.
Oh no.
It took some time. It took some weeks, I think.
Yeah.
I think we.
Yeah, I would say maybe a month. We you know,
Okay.
first
Yeah.
collab, we were having meetings of the minds and really trying to figure out, I guess, the visual for it and kind of nerding out music-wise on this track and the potential that it has. So, yeah, I would say it probably at least took maybe a month for this one.
Yeah, it was something that we knew immediately we believed in and that we didn't want to rush the process. So like we let it simmer a little bit. Like as far as like the initial draft, that was pretty quick. I think within her sending me that reference, I had the drums, the bass line, probably like the keys and the guitar right away. So like a little skeleton. And whenever I produce tracks, I kind of in my mind, even without having lyrics or the top line, I kind of in my mind arrange songs ahead of time with just like a simple, hook verse, like maybe like even if it's not even if it's not verse, maybe like hook A, hook B, and like, or like hook C even. Like, so like I'll throw like variations of different sections and just create those sections, arrange it so that the skeleton is there for you to write to.
So you have it already kind of mapped out on the DAW
Yeah.
itself.
Just so like you can, when you're listening to it, you can hear the different sections. So like you can, in your mind, kind of write to the different parts. And I'll even like, and Chakra knows how meticulous I am about this, I'll actually write notes about every section. I'll be like,
Really?
Here's the key, here's the BPM, here's the length of each section, here's the chord progressions, here's the,
Are you using the notes like in
Everything.
the session?
Yeah, in the DAW,
You're
I'll use
notating that.
Yeah, because when I'm producing, I'll take notes while I'm producing just to make sure
I
that.
just discovered that I could do that in Logic.
Yep,
Like
that's what
I
I
had
use
no
as a-
idea. So I
beautiful.
used to like try to take all these notes, and then one day I was like, "Son of a bitch!" I accidentally hit the note thing.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah, and you
I
can
just
do it
write.
for the. Yep,
It's
you can do it
nuts.
for the project and each individual track. So like I'm
Oh,
always
that's
like,
right.
yep,
That's right.
'cause
Sorry.
you can.
What?
No, yeah,
I'm learning something new. The way I
yeah,
do notes is I'll be
'Cause I-
singing on the top line, and next thing you know, I'll be like, okay, right here, blah 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 blah, and I'll send him the stem. That way, when he's in the
that's
project and
smart
he's
too.
listening,
That's smart too. But like
then
I
he
think it
can't miss
works.
it. Then he
Yeah.
can't be like, I didn't click on that.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I'm always writing because like I like because the way I write music is like I'll like kind of like jam chords around.
Yeah.
And like I'll be like, ooh, that chord change to that chord change sound like that chord to that chord sounded good. And so then I'll come up with a progression based off that. I'll be like, okay, well, I kind of want to have this, go to this. And then so I'm like just kind of like mapping out as I'm playing and then be like, okay, now I got this progression. I'll write that down so I don't forget it. So then I have to like write down each section. And like she says, like I don't like to do like simple compositions. Like I like to go, okay, that is that progression for that section. Then we're gonna do like a different progression for this section, or we're gonna do a key change, or like whatever, blah blah blah. We're gonna modulate. So like, I'll have to write all that down so I don't forget it.
Right.
So
Where else can we take this?
yeah,
Right.
exactly. So I'll send her all the notes so that she has it as reference to write to. So yeah, so the initial skeleton, circling back to how long it took, the initial skeleton probably only took me like a day or two to whip up and then send to her.
Okay.
And then she wrote, I think, the hook first. She had that pretty quickly. And then she sent that. And I was like, yes, absolutely yes. So then we had something to build off of after that. So that's when I think I went back and started adding more instrumentation just based off the hook. And that gave her time to write the rest of it. And then, the rest was just the fine tuning of the little ear candies and everything, which probably was just over the course of the month, just adding and subtracting little things here and there, fine tuning, mixing things. And yeah, so
dialing it all in.
yeah,
That's
it was
cool
just
though,
like
the extent of notation that you're talking about. And I can see how, because we just started doing that, because like there's been times we demoed like a ton of songs for our last like recording sessions, and we'd go back songs that we haven't touched in like 6 or 8 months.
yeah.
And they're like, we didn't even know like what the progression was. And I was just like, all right, you guys figure it out. Like that's
Right.
You don't
not
have to go into
helpful.
the MIDI and be like, okay, that's a C, that's a
Yep.
D.
There's times I would just open up MIDI and I'm like,
Yeah.
yep, Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Like hoping there's like a recording of like the guitarist playing it so you can read the
Yeah, or if
notes he's playing.
if it's all audio, then you're definitely screwed. Like if you just recorded
Yeah.
an audio, like the guitar part, yeah, that's
Unless you learn by ear.
yeah,
Or
at
play
least-
by ear.
yeah. Then you have to
Yeah,
like
it does help. Our keyboardist, he does a lot of like dueling piano stuff. So his ear is insane. So if he's there, I'm just kind of like, so Paul, what is this? It's like something I wrote 6 months ago. I'm like, what is this, Paul?
I'm actually
Tell me.
learning that it does come in handy.
What? Actually, fun fact, apparently flies buzz in the note of F.
That's really funny.
Right? The fact that somebody knows that and it's already regurgitated information is amazing.
Music nerd thing. And to that same topic, I was like walking my dog one day. I was outside and I heard a bird, and the bird's chirping went, and I was like, feels good. I was like, that is the same interval as that.
Michael Jackson?
No. What's that song that feels good?
I don't know. I'm not.
Da-da. Yeah. Da-da.
Yeah.
I got you.
Love it.
Gorillas.
There you go.
Oh,
Music, the
yes.
universal language.
I finally caught up. As soon as you said gorillas, I'm like, okay, I'm in
It was
now.
the birds chirping was the same exact interval as Gorillas feels good top line melody.
That's hilarious.
Interesting. Yes.
Maybe that's where they got it from. Or
Maybe.
is that the
Maybe
one
they-
they wrote off the demo?
No,
off
that
the
was
keyboard?
a different one. That was
a different
I
one?
think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Amazing.
it's that bird. They need to do another TikTok on that one. I
Yeah.
love the music nerdiness of probably all of us in this community.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Within that.
No, speaking
Now,
of, go ahead.
go ahead. No, go
I
for
was
it.
just-
Go for it.
I was gonna say, speaking of music nerdiness, me and Chakra are working on another song for this Butterfly EP, and like obviously with each song, I try to like challenge myself even more with the musicality of it, and like get a little more advanced with the structure and everything. And I created this whole composition that I was like super like, yo, I killed this, and sent it to her, and she loved it, but she was like, I can't hit these notes. It's not in my vocal range. I'm like, shit. I was like, okay, well, what's your vocal range? And so then like we use some app to figure out her vocal range. I'm like, okay, cool. All I got to do then is transpose it. And she's like, are you kidding me? Like, I feel so bad. Like, you're going to have to go in and like change everything. I'm like, yeah, no, that's fine. That's fun. For me, that was
it'll
like
be a fun little challenge.
I was like, challenge accepted. I'm like, transposition, that's like practice. I'm like, that's gonna actually make me a better musician. Like,
and then we had like an hour-long conversation where he's basically teaching me music theory.
nice.
There was the Gideon.
no, Lydian. Yeah,
Or
Lydian. So
Lydian.
yeah,
Lydian mode.
yeah, because I was like, oh yeah,
Teaching
this
the
song's in.
modes.
I was
Nice.
like, yeah, this song's in Lydian mode, and she's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, so like I gave her the whole like breakdown just to like for her to like get a better understanding of like the structure of the song, and like
Yeah, he like spoke it in patterns for me so my brain could comprehend, and then
just to like
Yeah.
maybe help her like like when she's writing the lead or the top line, like to better understand what she's
See where it fits.
what she's doing,
Yeah.
and like what's allowed and what's not allowed, because I didn't want her to be like, my brain wants it to go to this note, but that doesn't feel right. And I'm like, no, it is. You're actually right. Hit that sharp.
hit
that
that
gets
sharp.
in there. Let it go. That's in that is such a critical piece too. We spent like, I think it's an hour or two. We were working on a song. Right now we're trying to write some songs to pitch for like World Cup type stuff. And we just trying to find the right key, because it's like we all laid out and loved the music, but none of the keys seemed to work for my voice. And I have a particular range, and it's just like it was like to get the low right, I was like about a half step or a whole step higher than, and I'm like, I could maybe hit this in the studio every once in a while. I was like, but if we perform this live, we're fucked. So
I gotta
like,
find this app for you.
those kind of things. Well,
Yeah,
and that's for mine, I do know like high G is my top. Like you don't want me singing. I can sing above it, but you don't really want me to. I think I hit like an A on one of our songs on our upcoming EP, and it's just one note during the song, and it's like, and I do it live too, but it's only one time. So I'm like, okay, we can do this. But yeah, we kind of figured that piece out, but it's such a critical point too. Now, Chakra, are you primarily a vocalist, or do you do production as well? Are you like
I'm a
doing the
vocalist.
arrangements and all?
I would say honestly, I produce. I do. I just hate mixing. so much that I don't finish any of the projects. Like, but as far as like structure and, melodies and everything else with production, I love it. Honestly, I think I'm a beast at it, but I hate mixing.
What is it about mixing that you hate?
To be honest, it's probably just the time consumption that it takes and then getting the ear fatigue and then coming back and then hearing that it sounds like shit,
It
It's
is a
truly that
sad
battle.
time. That is a sad time.
I'm on the same boat, and for me, I think it's because the type of brain I have. Like, I'm one of those people that like I need to know the rules of everything. Like, I need to know how it works, the why. I need to to understand something. I need to know the science of it. Like, break it down into math. Break it down to like
Okay.
the
Right.
fundamental theory of it, and I can learn that and build off those fundamentals. But like when it comes to like mixing, a lot of times anyone that I've tried to like learn from, they're just like, just use your ear, and I'm like, yeah, but clearly my ear is not working. Like, clearly,
You're like,
you know,
been trying that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
if it was that easy, I wouldn't be coming to you for help. But like, clearly my ear is hearing something different than yours is. So like that frustrates me when I'm not able to hear the things that these people that have the trained ears are hearing.
Right.
Also, over the years of DJing professionally for like decades, my hearing has been damaged considerably.
Yeah.
Like, I've probably lost a lot of the frequencies that you can hear in terms of like those bright, like those like more higher frequencies. I've lost
As
it.
as you get older, you lose the hairs in your ear that actually
Everything-
pick up the sound.
Doesn't
So
it start
that's what it
laying
is.
down, right? Like over
Yeah.
time. Is that
Yeah.
Oh, is that what happens? They lay down?
my understanding is that because I was coming out from doing live music, I was losing hearing like significantly in my left ear. Like, even had to go to the doctor. I was having pains in my like up above, like, so they couldn't figure out. The only thing, basically, just did a lot of resting my ears. I changed my in-ears. We changed everything about what we do with our in-ears and how we mix it. Like, we went to town on figuring it out, to where now I don't really have issues with it anymore. My hearing has predominantly come back, but it got scary because it all happened at the same time I joined into this world, into the sync world. And it's like, then I would try to mix. Like, I'm learning mixing and all that. And I'm like, I'm sitting there for 8 hours straight doing that. And then I'm wondering why my ear's starting to hurt again. And I'm like, oh yeah, you can't just sit and do this all the time, man. This is nuts.
Did you put plugs in when you guys would rehearse?
And we do all in-ears for
Even
that.
when you rehearse?
Yeah, even when we rehearse
I guess
as well.
that makes sense.
Yeah, but we realized, like, even our gain structure of what we were doing, like, now we have like a split snake. So anywhere we go, no matter who's running sound, we have all of our ears for live contained to our gain structure, and everything's controlled by like our like system that we've dialed in.
Yeah.
So they can do whatever they want, where before we were kind of dependent on every night. It was just kind of different, even though we had in-ears. And but yeah, this just an aside to that. But yeah, it does affect it. And if you can't hear it I knew a guy who in live sound who was wild. He could hear like something in the mix, like from the back of the room. And he would yell up like, turn down like at 2.1K on the like, and like just from hearing it. And he was so trained, and sure enough, like the other tech would like adjust something, and it was like, that fixed the ringing or whatever it was, that he was so in tune. But yeah, I think as musicians, especially in this world, in the sync world, protecting our ears, like, it's become like paramount for me. Like, I left a rehearsal one time with another group that I was with because like it was just so loud. I was putting in my headphones. They didn't have in-ears. And so I just like put my in-ears in, even though they weren't plugged in, just to block out the sound. And it still hurt me. I was like, I gotta go, guys.
I did have to
do
use
this.
plugs when I was in a band back in the day. Like, had to have plugs every single session because it gets loud and buzzy in there,
Yeah, absolutely.
So gotta have something protecting.
I've tried solutions like those. There's certain things you could put in ear that like reduce the harmful frequencies, or like, just like reduce the gain. I've tried them, and honestly, they duck too much of the higher end frequencies that I would need to hear for mixing live when I'm DJing. Like, I need to be able to hear those like higher frequencies, like the melody parts,
true.
and then also I need to be able to hear the chattering of the crowd, I need to be able to hear vocal response. And like, if it's ducking it to where it's one in my ear, so all I'm hearing is my music, and I can't hear the live audio outside of the crowd. I can't hear whether the music I'm playing is responded well by the singing along of voices or the audible
True.
the oohs and the ahs. So I can't wear those, and those are the things that like people suggest, like protect your hearing, and it's like I can't. Like for my job,
and one thing we did for that is we have a audience mic now. I forget what the name of the mic. It's like a
room
flat
mic.
one. What's that?
You said like a room mic?
Yeah, it's like this flat one that we just set like out at the edge of the stage, and it gives you it's blending it into your mix. All of a sudden, we were like that was a game changer because you can get the responsiveness of the audience, but in a controlled way and the clarity of whatever else you needed to hear. But I imagine it's different. Like your sound hearing needs are different as a DJ than with a live band as well.
And most times they don't give you that intricate of a monitoring setup for a DJ.
They're like, here you go, bro. That's what you got, man.
Yeah, you're lucky if you get working DJ equipment at most.
Right.
And honestly, in most places you got to bring your own DJ equipment. So it's like,
right.
Yeah, it's a little different than a band, setup.
Fair enough.
Sound is paramount to the way it's received. To them, they're like, just play the music, bro. Like, who cares? So.
And you're back there like crying,
glad you're here.
I'm in pain.
I did a DJ gig one time. I did a DJ gig one time where they were like, they had no booth monitor at all, and I was like, "Yo, you guys got a booth?" And I was like, "They're like, oh yeah, our DJs usually bring their own booth monitor." I'm like, "They bring their own DJ equipment and their own speakers? Like, what's going on here? Like, you guys?" Jesus.
Yeah,
they do it all.
Yeah,
you're like, I'm gonna raise my price on you, bro.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, you guys don't pay that much for me to hurt my back like that. Like,
right.
It is kind of wild when you think about like value as well when in the live world, because we're noticing as we're increasing like our value as a band and getting paid more and more, those gigs are actually easier and they provide more things for you, which is so wild. It's like, and then it's like, then we'll go like, there's times one gig where we barely are walking away with anything. And they're like, we want 4 hours. You can't take a break, watching you like a hawk. And it's like other gigs that paid like a lot more than that. They're all like, do you guys need another drink? We'll get your green room for you. But I'm like, why the fuck were we doing those guys? It's so crazy. Well, and I think like kind of bringing it back into the sync world too, when I think about value, I think that's one piece that attracted me to this world, where it's like, I love original music. I love writing. Like I forget to eat. I forget to drink. I'll just sit in the studio and like create. And I love it, but then I found like a world where they value it more than I've experienced like in my life, where in the sense of like they'll pay you 10 grand for that song or 20, whatever the price fees, the sync fees of it and the potential of it. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And it seems like you guys have both individually had a lot of success already in the sync world. Am I correct on that? Because I know we haven't done your solo podcast quite yet, but
no, it might seem like it, but Paimon.
No, I've only had one placement, and that was actually before I even really started to do sync. Like it was like,
gotcha.
That's how he found out about sync.
That was your like, oh yes, more of that.
Yeah, like I was doing like type beat production for the longest time, but I just happened to have someone that worked in the world of sync that he was a fan of. He was a friend of mine, but also a fan of the music that I made. So I was always just sending him my stuff, and he got it placed in a project that he was working on. Yes. And then that kind of introduced me to that whole lane, and I was like, ooh, because I wasn't even like, I was selling beats, but like there were like beat leases, and like I don't know if you know much about like the world of type beats, and like
not a ton, but I've heard of people
you're
leasing
lucky,
them.
Like I mean, like you're basically selling your work for like $20, to people that nothing's gonna really come of it. It's just like you're selling yourself very, very short, and you're competing against people that are doing quantity over quality. So like these guys are making 20 beats a day. Like they're just like copy and pasting loops and just like, and it's just it was soul sucking. So like, I got out of that lane because I was like, it didn't feel like I was doing what I wanted to do. I was like, it was very like, you got to find your niche, and then you become typecasted. Like, don't make that. No, you've already sold some of these. Now you have to stick with that. Those are the only things you're allowed to.
NBA Youngboy type beat. It's
Yeah,
like,
you're like,
this is your niche type.
If you make an NBA Youngboy type beat and that's the one that's selling the most, now you're stuck making NBA Youngboy type beats for the rest of your type beat career. And it's like, don't you dare deviate. And it's like, so I was like, no, there's no way I'm doing this.
Harsh.
Yeah, I'm not doing this microwave thing to sell my art for $20 a piece. You know, so like, yeah, so I deviated from that to try to get into this sync lane. And since then, I haven't gotten placements, but I have things in the pipeline. I've gotten library,
Awesome.
things, thanks to Chakra, we've gotten things in libraries now. So,
Nice.
but yeah, no, as far as success in sync, I'm not there yet. I'm still green. I'm still new.
But walking that path, man. And
Yeah,
that's what I'm
making
seeing. Like, I keep talking to so many people about it, like all my friends who are in the music world. I'm like, I'm trying to tell you, I'm meeting people who are making like 10 figures or 5 figures a month, 10 figure, five, was it 10,000? That's 5 figures. Yeah. Like 5 figures a month. Like, I'm meeting people. That's not me. But anyway, we haven't got anything placed yet either. We just got signed for a first library. And you just watch so many. Thank you. Yeah. We were very excited. But like, you can tell people are like, oh, it sounds cool. But it's like, I'm trying to tell them, like, no, seriously, there's a lot of opportunity. It just takes a lot. I think that's the problem, is it takes everyone I've talked to, it takes that like step-by-step long-term process, like vision of it for
It's
it
its
to
own
become a
world.
success.
It really is. And that's like, people are just trying to wrap their mind around it. And, it's just to each his own. If it inspires you, it inspires you, but you're going to see more of it. I think more and more musicians and artists are going to start tapping into the space. So, I mean, but there's room for everybody in it. And I just love how the community is just so supportive of each other. Like, your win is their win is their win,
Yeah.
Because
That has
wins are
been really
inspiring
cool.
too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, when I
Absolutely.
see people post it, I'm like, I was telling Omega one time, I was like, dude, when you post that, it like reminds me, like, it's like, I know this dude now, and this dude is getting these placements, and like, I see the work he's doing, and it makes me feel like, okay,
Birds
we
of a
can
feather
keep-
flock together.
yeah,
He's
like
not
we can keep, if
recreating
we
the
keep
wheel.
moving, we can be there too.
Yeah, and he's not
Mhm.
recreating the wheel. He's just doing the process. So it's like more proof that like all you got to do is just trust the process and like just be patient and just keep doing, and it will come if you just keep at it.
Exactly. That's another thing they can't grasp, is that it is a long-term game. And once you're accepting of that, then you are going to go places. I mean, it takes not only getting your music to a high-end sounding level, but also nurturing those relationships with libraries, agencies, music supervisors. And like, it's a relationship game too. So, and then just don't forget to have fun.
I think that's the
Right.
most important.
Now, and so Chakra, you're in libraries already. You're already signed to them. And have you gotten placements at this point?
As
What's
a
that look like for you?
producer, I've got like a micro placement or two, which is
Nice.
basically like content creators where they go
Mhm.
and scoop up music for their content. But as an artist, it took me a while, I will say, to find my core collaborators. I was kind of just doing like these one-offs with various producers and such, and I finally found like the core people that I like to work with. And now I'm making the EPs, placing those, and the libraries, while also learning more about what the libraries and agencies I'm with specialize in. And also seasonally, like the whole, you have to look quarterly at like what are the patterns for this time of year in sync, what kind of music is being placed, and what kind of TV shows are kind of hot. Like, for example, we've got summer coming up. It's in June. We've got a lot of the, like Love Island, reality TV, love shows. That's my guilty pleasure. I love me Love Island. And then, during Christmas, you have or holiday stuff. And as a matter of fact, Christmas music or holiday music is sought out after months prior to
Right.
holiday season. So, but yeah, I know it's coming though. I know like the big one, or a more successful one is coming. And again, it's a long-term game, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I hear so many people say it's a get rich slow program. And
I like
And
that.
That weeds
The
out the
fir- I-
people that aren't really passionate about it too, to be honest.
right.
Seriously.
Yeah. And it kind of brought good, it brought a really good perspective. Even talking to Josh Williams, I had him on the podcast a few years back, and that's kind of where I first was introduced to things. And when he was talking about his first year making 200 tracks, he's like, he was talking about where he was and seeing such success. He's like, but I want to give some perspective. My first year, I did 200 tracks. And I think if I remember correctly, none of those got signed. Like those were the 200 tracks that built him and taught him to get to the other ones that, it's like, okay, let's lock in, let's grow. But I think you guys are living out what a piece that I didn't understand until getting into the Sync Alliance is the power of collaboration, the power of putting people together. Because like in my vision, I was like, well, shit, I got to write 100 tracks this year, all on my own. Fuck, like,
yes.
like how
it's like going on tour with a band. It's so much easier going on tour with other people than by yourself.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I have done
it's
both.
That moral support along with the process. Yeah.
I think I have trauma I did like a 2.5 week solo tour. And I remember like there were several shows I had left and I was leaving like Seattle or something. I live in Kansas City. And I was headed home and I literally almost just bypassed every show, just drove back home. I was like, this is because I was used to touring with the band. I went solo. I was like, I don't want to do this. No. I gotta have people around me. This is insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, having that collaboration, I think it again opened up a whole new world to me of what's possible. And even hearing like how the support there where I think Paimon, you had mentioned Chakra, you got him into some of these libraries now because of the collaboration.
Yeah, she's a killer with the,
I understand
the
that, right?
Yeah, no, she's a killer with the networking and making those moves. And I think she has more experience in the sync world than I do. So I'm kind of like learning by watching her and like with this collaboration, like she's kind of taking the lead on that aspect of it. So I get to like experience it through her moves and like learn as she is doing these things. And I'm like, oh, damn, that's a good idea. Oh, damn, that's dope that you did that. Shout out to her. So, yeah, it's kind of like for lack of a better word, like job shadowing, like or like you get to like watch, like she's become a mentor in that aspect of that. So collaboration can be important in those ways as well, where you're collaborating with someone that is a little more ahead of in the game in certain areas, and also like in order to even do that, you kind of have to like reduce your ego in the sense of like knowing your weaknesses and knowing your strengths and weaknesses and knowing where collaborating with someone else and utilizing their strengths and you utilizing your strengths and having that synergy, can make you guys go further than if you were to just try to handle it all yourself, knowing that, I can only do so much and wear so many hats. And it's like, no, create this team or partnership and become a well-oiled machine to where, you guys are both doing what you're best at to the best of your capabilities, and you're going to move that much further.
Agreed. And I love, it's amazing how collaboration can work in that way because you learn so much from each other. And, I feel like I shadow other people as well, but like even just going to like conferences, and even on Reddit, you can see conversations happening around sync and stuff like that. And you just learn the cadence of conversation. And that's where I get the networking from at this point. I've gone to maybe 3 or 4 conferences in the past year or so. So
Are you guys going to Shades of Sync November? Are you planning?
Probably.
I think so. Yeah,
likely.
I think so.
Yeah,
unless for whatever financial reasons I can't afford it, but I intend to.
I get it. I get that.
Yeah.
I have it blocked out already. And just even telling agents like don't book anything. And I'm actually thinking about booking a tour there and back, solo tour. As I just got done saying how much I hate it, but it wouldn't be 2.5 weeks long. That was the problem with that tour. It was way too long. But sorry, my leg just cramped up. Oh, goodness, I've been drinking too much coffee and caffeine all day. But yeah, that partnership of it, even as our band's going, our collaboration is growing, where even last night I couldn't make a session. And then my bass player, he's been teaching himself Ableton over this last year because he loves lighting. So he like taught himself how to do all of the like programming. So our entire show now is like synced to our tracks and every little light and everything he programmed in it. And we were like, why don't you just record our guitarist and the guitar parts tomorrow night? and it was his first time doing like the sound engineering piece, and he seemed like he loved it. And he was like, I think I could take over for you on Tuesday. I was like, I kind of like what I do on Tuesday. I don't know if I want you, but even listening to you and thinking about what he said, he's like, what if I did the engineering part? You could focus on creating the content and like the creativity behind it, because he knows that's what I love. So maybe I just need to be like, okay, let's do that. But it's cool to see how that grows. And we did 8 tracks, all live drums, right? So I have stacks of drums that I've had to edit, and they've just sat on my hard drive for like a month. And finally I realized my guitarist is like really good at editing and like really into it. And I was like, why don't you just start doing that? He's like, fuck yeah, let's go. And I'm like, oh, thank God I don't have to do that, because I'm not.
Sounds like you got a fun crew, to be honest.
It is fun. It's fun to see how it comes together. And I'm excited though, too, just working with different people, collaborating in the communities. Before we land the plane on this, because I know you guys probably have other music to write and other things to do, but I'm curious, for those listening, what are some tips you would give to have effective collaborations in the sync world and music in general?
I would say just be true to yourself, like be your authentic self, and also like be understanding that not everyone is where you're at. And when you think about it that way, then you will have more patience. Like the perfect example is like, me and Chakra's initial collaboration was, we just like, it was like a timing thing. We just weren't where each other were at that moment. But all it took was for us to find the right style or sound or thing that inspired us both to just like spark that fire. So like if I was to, for example, like not be patient or not be true to myself or authentic to myself, and instead I took it personal that, it didn't work out that first time, and just kind of like, and my stuff sucks, or like, or whatever it might be, like, oh, she didn't like my music or whatever, like, and we just weren't patient with it to take another stab at it or be like, well, what about this? I think that's important, because not everyone is going to be on the same wavelength at that moment. And if you try to force it, that's when it can become, you could bump heads or let feelings or emotions get involved. So I think it's like, really just try this out, try that out. If it doesn't work out, oh, well, it's not the right time, keep at it. Find, like Chakra said, find the people that you like working with, work with it, strike where the iron's hot. If there's momentum and there's synergy, keep doing it, keep at it. You got a well-oiled machine now, work with that. And then if it's not the right time anymore, maybe you're no longer inspired by the sound of that collaboration anymore, go somewhere else with it, go maybe work either with this person or this group or whatever it might be, and then come back when it's right, when it feels right. Having that self-awareness of like what works for you and what's true to you, I think that's specifically for me, that's important to me, is to like make the music that I enjoy making, so that it doesn't feel like work, so that it doesn't feel like I'm like only doing this for the paycheck or only doing this for the opportunities. I'm actually doing this because I'm nerding out over what I'm making, and I'm proud of it, and I love the process of making it. And if you don't love that process in this game, and specifically in sync, you're gonna hate it, because if you have to wait months or a year for anything to come of it, but you're making stuff that you don't even like making, so you're doing something you don't like doing in the hopes that later on in the long term something's going to come of it. Yeah, no, that's
right.
That's
at least if you're doing like some shitty job and you're getting paid in that moment for that shitty job, you're like, okay, at least I got the money and I can move on. But that's like,
I tell people all the time, I'm like, I have a whole ass degree. If I wanted to do something I didn't want to do from not like, all day, I would have just got a job with my degree. Like, I would have just get a job. Like, now I do this because it's something I'm passionate about,
Right.
Exactly. I would say that my answer to that question, obviously I love the authenticity, like keep that strong, because otherwise it's going to feel like work. But organization is a big one, especially with collaboration for sync. Like you want to know that you're speaking clearly with one another, that there's a vibe, and then that you're organized, whether that's making sure that we got split sheets, making sure that you're communicating clearly on what you might want for particular sections of what the song is about, metadata. Literally, there's so much that goes into it. And thank God for Paimon.
Metadata is intense.
and Chat GPT, because that shit's been helping us, get ready for the release of Butterfly. And, I don't think I've ever put this much time and effort into a release of mine before. So it feels really nice to have it buttoned up and kind of ready to go for promo, which is in a little over 2 weeks.
It's getting there.
June
It's getting, and I think this will drop. I'm going to drop this. It's the 13th, right? Of June.
Yep. How'd you know?
I don't know. I don't know how I knew that one. Let me think. Yeah, because I think, well, we can talk about when we'll drop this after the podcast.
But to piggyback off of what she said,
yeah.
to piggyback off of what she said, yes, collaborating with someone that has the same goals as you, like in terms of professionally, like they're not just collaborating for the sake of making a cool song. They're like, no, yeah, let's get this.
The intent.
Yeah, the intent of like, hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z with it after it comes out, and we're going to get it placed here. I'm going to make these moves, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I've already done this due diligence of having these things in place. I've registered these things in the right place. Like professionally, like the thing I loved about working with Chakra or just anyone in the Sync Alliance community is like, because we're already like kind of at the same level wavelength wise in terms of what to do professionally, like we know the steps to take to try to make something of it. It's not just a hobby for us, like we're not just doing it to make a cool song to show our friends. We're like, no, we want to make a living doing this. So like, I don't have to worry about Chakra not having her stuff registered. I don't have to worry about Chakra not knowing what paperwork we're going to have to fill out. Like, I don't have to like try to like, as opposed to like when I was working with like certain like, like local artists, like I'm literally having to like beg them to get certain things done so that we can even put the song out or like even make any money off of it. And it's like, I shouldn't have to try to do that with like my collaborators because like they might be treating it like, oh, I already got a job. I just wanted to make a cool song to show my friends. Here I'm like, I do this for a living. Like I need to pay bills with this. So like, so it's cool when you like, again, to circle back from her answer, finding people that are organized, have that communication, have that stuff all in place. That's very, very key, very important to have people that are like on the same wavelength, same goals and intent.
Absolutely. That's TC was talking about how he has like a whiteboard with all the different collaborations going, and he has like a whole system to mark like where things are at in the process just so he can keep. And I was like, oh,
good for him.
So having folks, and I'm learning that as I've had to backtrack to get all of our split sheets together because that was something we didn't have. And now I'm seeing, because of having to go do that and chase some people down, like now I realize like, okay, from this point on, if I start talking to someone and they don't have XYZ already, we're not we'll do it when you have those things together.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Yeah.
And then, cause I don't want to and you guys have probably experienced that too.
You're like, I shouldn't have to chase you around.
Believe me,
money. I'm trying to
do
make
some chasing,
money.
Chakra.
I've had to do some chasing or repeating myself. I'm like, bro, I made a spreadsheet for us. Go check the spreadsheet. Go check it. That's where all the notes are.
Well, and I keep asking percentages like Jared Alua. I was like, how much is it networking? How much is it, music? Is it 50-50? And he was like, maybe like 90-10, like 90 networking, 10 music. And he had some good points as to why, and TC said like 80-20, maybe business. You got to have your business shit more because this world, it does seem like as Jared said, he was like, you've heard some whack ass songs like licensed on a commercial. He's like, it's just because they had their business shit together and they knew somebody and they got their bullshit song that sucks like in there. He's like, so your music might be good, but if you don't have your shit together.
That's so true.
It's not gonna
Even
work.
with like artists and bands like making it in whatever local city, local scene, you know what I mean? Like there could be two bands side by side and if one of them doesn't perform very often, then obviously they're not going to gain any fans, you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and that's the toughest part. Toughest part for me because like I'm such a music nerd and studio rat that like I only care about the music. Like I'm obsessed with music so much that that's all I think about, and so that like the business side sometimes becomes a foregone conclusion. Like, I don't dedicate enough time thinking about those things, and it's almost to like those things are almost daunting because they're so like obviously, like, you know, like when you start to mix business and art, or like, you know, the
It's a
sales
dance.
side.
It can
Well,
definitely be a
they're like
dance.
opposed sides. You know, the more you think about the sales,
Yeah, logic,
aspect of it,
creative.
yeah,
Yeah.
the more you think about how well this song is going to be, you know, how much money it's going to make and the sales of it, the less you're thinking about the integrity of the art. Like, because if it's 100% the thought of the integrity of the art, oftentimes that's no sales, because it's so
Because it will
artistic.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, it
it's so
will
like
set, what's that word?
not divisive, but like it's polarizing. It's so
Polarizing.
like
Thank you.
it's so
There you go.
polarizing of art that like you're like you know, you're gonna make people turn away from this because of, like, you know, that's good art
Of
though.
the choice you made.
Like, you're gonna make
Right.
people be like, ew, what is this sound?
Well,
Like,
and I
it's
think that's like the artist side too of understanding. I think that's why I like, so when we got signed to this library, like then in our community, right? They say, okay, now write 50 songs
mm,
and get them 50 songs, right?
mhm.
And so it's like, okay, let's go do that. And realizing, like, as a band, like, we don't have to release all 50 of those songs, you know? And in fact, like, does the
Right.
world want us to
Yeah.
release all 50 songs
Yeah.
in 1 year, you know? Like, and it was that, in a sense, it became freeing, because it was like, okay, there might be some tracks that just aren't going to be like like we'll put in the library if someone wants to, but maybe this is just the art song that we put out. Yeah, but we have these other tracks that maybe accomplish both. And but it is tough, because, you know, our conversations as we're writing, like specifically writing right now for this World Cup concept, and referencing tracks where we've had to make choices and we feel good about them once we're done. But the process, sometimes you're like, well, how do we make sure people can sing along to this in a stadium kind of setting? And, you know, like all these kind of conversations where sometimes as an artist it can feel a little icky. We're getting comfortable with it. But, and honestly, I feel like it's making us better writers now, because we're contemplating melody and how the fan experiences it in a heavier way. What are some things you guys do as you're writing? Like, do you have rules? Like, I can't think about the business part right now, or do you kind of think about it as you're going? What does that look like for each one of you guys? That's cool. Right.
Mhm.
I see. Yeah. Right. And there's so many avenues for sync, is what I'm learning too. There's so many places. So I feel like almost any song could find a home. How about for
But
you,
music
Chakra?
soups will tell you they can tell if something feels forced. You know what I mean? So if you're thinking too much about the business side of it, they can tell.
They're like,
But
ew.
but I
Ew.
will say, you know, for me as a top liner or a lyricist, you know, you got to think about the words that you're using, the lyrics that you're using, making sure it's more broad in terms and not too specific. You know, like instead of saying McDonald's, you say fast food, or you know what I
Right.
mean? That way you're not calling out brands and things of that nature. But also, you have to be general, but be able to tell a story and not sound corny.
Right.
So
It's tricky.
it is tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But done in an accessible way. Right.
Mhm.
Forcing it. Yeah, exactly. And
Mhm.
then people are like, oh, okay. I don't know.
It's vanilla.
Well, and that has been an inspiring thing, hearing from the music supervisors as well, because I assumed coming into the licensing world, I thought it was going to be less my band and more me making what I had in mind was sync music, was kind of like almost like cookie cutter, like music bed type stuff. And realizing that, like, all these supervisors are saying they want something authentic. You know, they obviously have parameters and things that
Yeah.
they're looking for, but they're like, I want something that feels real. Like, I want a real artist. And I was like, well, fuck yeah, let's go. Let's do this.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep.
That's awesome.
It's
Well,
exciting
guys,
stuff.
I'm excited for the release, for you guys to get that out there. And it's cool.
June 3rd.
And it's cool for me, as someone very new to this world, to see and hear from you guys of like what the collaboration, the whole process of it. So thanks for sharing that. That's really cool. And yeah, let people know how they can go check out the song and connect with you guys.
And they've made that easier now too. It used to be like this whole workaround where you had to go sign in and do a bunch of
I
stuff.
know,
Now
it's
you
such a
just hit
pain
the
in the
link
ass.
and you're there. I
That's
know.
good. That's good. They fixed that.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. So it'll be on all DSPs. You'll be able to get it, as a sound on, YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or whatever. So,
and hopefully hear it somewhere on Hulu or Netflix sooner than later is
that
the hope
part.
too. Hell yeah. Well, guys, thank you for making the time. And
Thank
and
you.
for those listening, we got solo podcasts where each one of you gets to tell more of your own story coming up down the road. So stay tuned. That'll be
Yeah,
fun.
same. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for listening to the Live and Create podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment or a review.
The Live and Create podcast.